Gentlemen, I will call this meeting to order at 10 o'clock. If you would, please rise and let's have our opening prayer. Martha Hagan from Whaling Methodist Church. Got it right this time.
It's good to go.
There you go.
Let us go to God in prayer. Almighty God, before we begin today's work, we pause to give you thanks. You are the source of life and love, hope and peace, and we thank you for the fresh start and possibility of this new day. We recognize your care for all of creation, and we pray that all of us, your servants, would join in loving this county we call home, just as you love us, O God. Give our leaders courage to fight for justice and righteousness. Be leaders filled with peace. Pour out your wisdom on all of us gathered today. Give us eyes to see the needs all around and respond in loving and caring ways. Help this Commissioner's Court to listen, first of all, to you, O God, and then the whole community and to one another. Help us to speak out and amplify the voices of those in our community who are the most vulnerable and rarely heard. As we seek to live as good neighbors, as a family together, open our hearts to love extravagantly all your children. We lift up each agenda item and each county department and employee represented here today. We pray that our agenda would follow your agenda, that we live united as your beloved community. We pray that we would leave this place a better place than where we found it, passing to the next generation a legacy of mutual care and unity that celebrates our diversity and bridges the divides that we sometimes see. Bless all of us who call Cooke County home and help us join you, O God, in making this place a better home for all of us. And all God's children said, amen.
Thank you very much. You are welcome to stay here and join us today, or whatever you wish to do. Thank you. Commissioner Sicking, if you would you lead our pledges?
Yes. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor to Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Item number 5, public comments on agenda items. Do we have anybody signed up? Okay, no one signed up. Item number 6, the consent agenda, and that includes non-controversial and routine items that the court may act on with one single vote. The judge or a commissioner may pull any item from the consent agenda in order that the court discuss and act upon it individually as part of the regular agenda.
Nobody's got anything. I'll make a motion. We approve the consent agenda as it is.
Motion, Commissioner Snuggs, to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Sicking. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And there are none. The consent agenda passes 5-0. Item number 7, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the updated, revised Wi-Fi mobile hotspot policy and included in the Cooke County Library policy.
Good morning. I printed copies for you guys too. It's easier to find in the packet. This is the agreement that a patron signs for borrowing the hotspots that we have.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I just changed a couple things because we received a Texas State Library grant to pay for all of them that we have for this year. And we've applied and are in the process of getting them through E-rate for next year. The federal government is now making hotspots part of their E-rate program if you're a library or school. So it appears that we shouldn't have any issue getting that as well. We won't know that till early spring, but this is a way to kind of take the load off the county for paying for those services that we provide. In this document, things that changed are highlighted in the red. It used to be you could only borrow it for 7 days because we didn't have very many. With the increase of adding 5 more, we are now going to change that to 2 weeks that a person can borrow it. And you used to have to wait a week before you could borrow it again, so you would give people enough time who weren't you to come borrow certain hotspots. We're now going to change that to 3 days because we've increased that. So those are the 2 changes that we're making in the agreement, which will then be changed in the policy manual, which is where this document goes. So, anybody have any questions?
Do they all stay out pretty regularly, or are they?
They go out more often. The more people who know about it, the more they come. We average probably 9 to 10 a month, and we've only had, until we got the 5 new ones that Shelley got in this budget, we had only had 9. So, I mean, it seems like it's working, or I'm sorry, 15. So we're going to add 20 total.
Oh, wow.
So it should help. It should help with some of the people. I know it does help. We have a family that she uses it for homeschooling. And so they just kind of plan all their curriculum about, what they need to do as far as research on the internet. They use it that week they have the hotspot, and then she comes back and waits, and then she comes and gets it. So she's very excited. I also know there's some people that the broadband stuff that, you guys approved, it's still not going to reach everybody, and this is a way to get some of those people again, too.
Absolutely.
So that's just...
It's neat to see where the libraries have gone. It's a whole different thing than when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's still the other thing, too.
Well, 100%, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying it's neat.
You
that
came
the
on
other
that
things
day
are
when
options.
all those kids were there, too, which is what I'll go back to, which will be a good day, too. So anyhow, I just need you guys to vote and approve the changes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the new patron agreement for the hotspots.
Second. Motion, Commissioner Snuggs. I seconded the motion. And item number 7 passes 5, let's vote on that. Got ahead of myself. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Item number 7 passes 5-0. Thank you.
I'm here for the next one, too. So.
Are you?
Yeah.
Item number 8, deliberate and consider possible action regarding the updated revised Cooke County Library 5-year long-range plan, 2024 through 2029.
I'll give you guys printouts of these, too, if you want them. This is in regards to what we did last year, and you guys requested that we do this every year instead of doing it every 5 years. So the things that are changed in the red are what got added or changed. Obviously, the years on the front page. The statistics on the very first page are based on the annual report that was last turned in to the Texas State Library and our numbers. Last year we had over 96,578 items that were checked out. This year we hit 101,000 in our last fiscal year. So it's finally going back up. The biggest year we ever had until this year was the year before COVID, and finally things are starting to go back up. So this kind of breaks down the budget on that in the stats and what things were used for and what the collection contains. If you go to the first page that has the service goals, goal number 1, I added "and informal" into the computer or e-device classes. We have a lot of people who start as book readers and then go on trips, and they want to be able to use the digital collection while they're driving there. And so they come in and need to learn how to download the app to their phone or their Kindle or their iPad or whatever, and the staff walks them through it. We've been doing this for forever. It just wasn't acknowledged, and I felt like we needed to put that in there because that's a daily, it's a weekly, if almost not daily, thing that occurs. And then in goal number 2, since the library received the Family Place Library Grant this year, I needed to add in about the toy area that we have that stays out in the children's area, which is a requirement of that grant to then get accredited. They will come hopefully next year and accredit us. And also the parent-child workshops that you were required to do, two sessions a year. They're 5 weeks long, and they are in the spring and in the fall. This week will be our 3rd workshop of the 5, and every week, Delania came the first week, and we've had 10 kids every week, 9 or 10 kids, and parents and grandparents who come, and they come and interact with their child through dramatic play, building, talking on an old-fashioned phone. That's been one of the most popular things, is this little red phone we bought, and they pick it up and talk, and costumes, lots of dressing up, and puzzles. And we are required to have outside community resources there that help and can talk to them about child development. This week, Kelsey from GISD Nutrition is coming, and she'll be there the whole 90 minutes to talk to them about any questions they might have on food and allergies. Last week, we had a woman who was there from, Peter, do you remember? I can't say it right, but she was there for child development, and she went around and answered questions they might have on why their infant isn't as far along as they think they should be. Next week is another person from there who will talk to them about speech and speech therapy and sign language and those kinds of things. So with that grant, I felt like that needed to be added to the goal to services that we do provide for children. And that was it.
This long-range plan is part of, you have to keep it for your accreditation and all the grants and all that. It's
Yes.
not something that just we required.
No.
I just want to say that.
No, it's not. It's a state requirement for accreditation. So, and normally you don't do it every year, but, you know, like, and in this case, Matt, maybe he was clairvoyant because he said, can we do it again every year? And this time we actually had things to add that we haven't had to add in the last 10 years. So anyhow, I just need you guys' approval on this to change it, and then we'll see what comes up next November.
Motion to approve the 5-year long-range plan for the library as she's presented it.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Snuggs, second, Commissioner Sicking. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Item number 8 passes.
Chelsea has a page for you guys to sign.
Okay.
And then Pam, once I sign it as well, I'll make sure that we have a copy for her and for the website. Thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 9 is to deliberate and consider possible action regarding the agreement with ESO for CAD interference.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Wes?
I'm doing great. How are y'all?
Good.
What do you need to know?
What do we need to know?
So is this it's an annual billing or is it a one-time deal?
This one is a one-time bill. There's an annual fee, but this is a one-time billing to integrate with a different CAD system. We already paid it to integrate with the previous one. Now it's good news. There's good news here. The good news is the CAD system that we bought includes interface with ESO. Our price included all that, so there's no bill from them.
Right. And will this download the stuff that comes off the CAD into the ESO without having to move all that manually?
Correct.
Okay. That's what I understood. I was just making sure. Making sure you had that too. So.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I move to approve it.
Motion from Commissioner Arndt to approve item number 9.
Second.
Second. Is that you?
The frog over here.
Yeah, the frog over there. All right, second, Commissioner Snuggs. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. That was easy.
Sure was. Thank y'all.
Item number 10, presentation by Scott Franklin from 4T Partners. Impossible action regarding the Cooke County Justice Center roof.
All right, as you know, we've been having some issues with the roof leak at the Justice Center for several years, really, off and on. And we've done repairs to it, and they just continue to get worse. So back in the summer, we hired 4T Partners to go and do an assessment of the roof, make a report, tell us what they found and their recommendation. And so we have Scott Franklin here, who's going to tell us what he found there and what the issues are, what his recommendations are, and I think he even has some price estimations. So Scott, if you'll come.
Gentlemen, I guess everybody saw the report that we issued from our investigation, I believe.
So you've got it in here.
So, I also represent, for the entire state, we oversee all of the losses for TML, TAC. So in a lot of cases, when we get involved, we get brought in after the adjustment has been made, they found damage, and we'll come in just like we did on this court building. We were the ones that assisted the county. The nice part is we don't have any fees when we come in through TAP. They pay all those fees, so there's no burden on the county. This is a little different because we don't have a loss. The insurance companies sent probably 2 adjusters out, I think, over the last couple of years to look at it. We've got a sloped metal roof, 4 to 5 on 12 slope. One of the issues you have with that particular building is you have what's called field seams, meaning you've got seams that overlap to make that run from the ridge to the eave. That can get a little precarious when it comes to metal. What we know about metal has the largest expansion and contraction rate in a 60 to 70 degree temperature swing of any other construction products we have. This is one of the reasons you go up there and you see fasteners that are backing out. They're literally backing out through the repairs that were made in the past. That doesn't change. Now, if you were to go to a repair scope to deal with those field seams, what we would require, what the industry standard is you'd have to replace every fastener that's on that roof in the seams with a one size larger screw, just to make sure you've got good bite with an apron washer, and then you would apply a base primer, reinforcement, and a top finish coat on that. And that would be over those field seams as well as any seams at curbs. Really, any of the seams up there would get the same treatment. It looks like there's been 2, possibly 3 attempts to repair that roof over the last couple of years. We can tell that due to the color differences with some of the seam repairs that were done longer ago than the ones that were done more recently. With metal, And this type of repair, if you get 10 years out of it, you're fortunate. That's just reality. We usually tell folks it's 5 to 10 years is what it's going to buy you if you go in and repair it. The numbers we're looking at in repair are probably about $150,000 generally. That's without tips or bond fees. There is a permanent repair method that I have used on 15 or 16 justice centers around the state of Texas that have been damaged. That's called a flute fill assembly. What it does, it allows us to come in, put a 2-inch pre-cut EPS foam down. We put a 1/4-inch Duns deck over that, and then we fully adhere 50, 60, 80 mil PVC. That gets us 20 years, which is the normal amortization. When you put money into an asset, you want to get at least 20 plus years out of it. I can tell you of the work that we've done around the state as it relates to those that were covered under insurance for either city, housing authority, county-owned buildings for the state of Texas. I've been doing that 9 years, overseeing that program for TML and TAC. I have not lost a single justice center to a new loss. We've only had 2 buildings in the history of this program out of some 30,000 buildings that have gone through that have ever been submitted for a new loss. So the assemblies that we're using are quite good. We also require that all the assemblies that go into our specifications have to be factory mutual severe hail rated assemblies or certified assemblies. That means they were tested. The manufacturer pays a fee, sends it over to factory mutual. A 10 by 10 gets put in a chamber to age out to 20 years accelerated. They then hang it on a wall, and they shoot 3-inch hail balls out. If there's a break in the membrane, that's a fail. If there's even a break in the facer of the Duns deck, that's a fail. So it's a pretty stringent test. There's a lot of systems that won't make it through. Also, one of the other issues we have in particular with this Justice Center is when you go through and look at a number of the pictures I took with the stack flashing, the plumbing stacks, a lot of those flashings are cupped. And the reason they're cupped is nobody ever put a steel band at the top to hold or affix that neoprene flashing to that pipe. So as it expands and contracts, same thing's happening with pipes, and it drops to where it cups, and now it's holding water in there. That's a problem, because we don't want stagnant water. Just like with the seam repairs, it's damming that water over those seams, which is then allowing that water to sit there and migrate its way in. Same thing that we've got with these plumbing stacks. My repair scope that I put together includes remove and replace of every stack flashing with new, with the proper stainless steel band, a minimum 8 inches up. So the flashing will go up a minimum of 8 inches, steel band and seal. That would take care of those issues. It's not something I can get a 20-year manufacturer on when it's a repair with a maintenance system. I can get a 20-year NDL if you were to go to the flute fill system. We have the same condition at most of the curbs. They've all been sealed in the past. They're starting to lift, fasteners are starting to back out, so we've got the same issues there. I think the majority of leaks are related to our seams in the field, to our plumbing stacks, and at that curb transition with the metal roofs, where that water is getting slowed down, is what's causing some of the issues to continue to pop up. And anything you put over the existing is a problem. So in the future, if the city does go with the repair, what we scoped out, which was proper, was that everything has to be removed down to the metal. A, you've got to be able to replace all those screws. B, you want to get as low as you can to that primary substrate so that we minimize any of that damming of water on a repair method. And I can get a 5-year contractor's on it. But that's about as good as you're gonna get, because she's an old building, and she's a building that wants to expand and contract a whole lot. So she's constantly moving. And we get a lot of swings in temperature that are 50, 60 degrees. What specifically can I help answer, aside from the two different scopes that I put together? There is a third potential, which is called a roof hugger assembly. I put that on one of two justice centers. The member wanted something that looked as close to standing seam metal as they could get, rather than that flat surface. So if aesthetics are an issue, there is a roof hugger assembly. The nice thing about it is we don't have to peel open the can. What we want to avoid is opening up that roof to the inside, because that creates all kinds of issues. This would allow you to go in and put a roof hugger assembly that rides on the high point of those seams. A new metal roof would lay on top of that, and there would be a blanket under that that fills that cavity between the old metal and the new metal. The downside on a roof this size, which is it's probably pushing 60,000 square feet, we're probably going to be another $150,000 to $175,000 over the PVC assembly, because metal is out of sight right now, cost-wise.
What was it? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is this roof, I can't picture it in my head, is this roof super visible, like from the ground? Like, you know what I'm saying, can you see the roof when you're pulling up to the building, or is it more of a flat roof?
You can see it, yeah, you can see it, but
Okay,
it's
I
not.
just couldn't remember how visible it
You
is.
don't see as much of the roof as you do the walls, but you can see it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, not a problem.
Now, the other nice thing is there are some color options in that. And we looked at this for one justice center about going back with the flute fill assembly. The manufacturer makes what's called a lineal that looks like a standing seam that they can weld on the surface of the membrane that would give it that appearance of being metal, even though it's PVC. I want to say Honda's Justice Center pricing came in, it was about $60,000 to $65,000 to add those lineals. So it was a little pricey. But it would give you that look if that was an issue.
Okay, you made reference to three options. Option one was a 5-year repair. Did you give us a,
5 to 10 year repair, which would be the coating, replacing the coating down, taking everything down to the substrate of that metal, replacing all of the screws with neoprene washers one size larger. That would include coming in with a primer first, then reinforcement, because it needs to have some reinforcement to kind of resist some of that movement, and then it would have a finish coating applied over that. And that would be at all the field seams, curves, and any vertical transitions. And it would include the replacement of all your plumbing goods.
and what was the cost of the 5 to
It was
5
in
to
150, I turned my phone off, so I can't look up. It was about 150, 160,000.
150 to 160,000? Then the flute fill assembly was how much?
The flute fill assembly, all in, was probably about 570 to 575. And bear with me, if that, once you guys pick a direction, we would scope this out very specifically and get some hard numbers to you. I just found out I was coming here last week, so I was able to get some aggregate numbers. They'll be very close, but I want to firm it up with a scope so everybody's got it written.
And then option 3, please?
Option 3 would be the roof hugger. I would anticipate, I haven't priced it yet, or got the pricing back on it because it's a little more complex. There's some of the UL and attachment requirements. But you're probably looking at the 640, 650 range.
Okay. And you as the expert, which one of those gets us the best return on our investment?
That was my next question too.
In my opinion, the flute fill. And that's provided, I would tell you 80 to 90% of the contractors in the state of Texas put down PVC mechanically attached. We do not. Because I don't want that pillow effect. I want it fully adhered, and that also prevents any runners. If water were to get in, if it's not fully adhered, it can run. If it's fully adhered, it ain't, in most cases, it ain't gonna get in. We've not lost, we've had one building in the 9 years that we've been doing this that we put that assembly on, and that was because a tornado took a 4,000-pound railing off a hangar, and the roof was attached to the railing. So when the railing got grabbed by the tornado, it took the roof off. It was about 60 squares. That's the only other roof. I had one up in Hereford. They got hit with 3.75 to 4 1/4 inch hail with high winds. Well, if you've been up there, you know they get winds. They got a hailstorm last summer, or summer before last. Every building within a 22-block radius of downtown courthouse was totaled, with the exception of one roof. Central Appraisal District had some damage in a prior storm, and we replaced that roof 12 months prior. That was the first one TML sent the adjustment team to. And it turns out it was the only building that suffered no damage. So the system works. And it probably works better than I or TML ever thought when we developed this program. I used to run a similar program for the entire country for Walmart. I was their chief waterproofing expert. I also was the chief waterproofing expert under Global Concap from KBR Halliburton during Katrina. And the hurricane right before that hit Pensacola. And then I did Gulfport in Katrina. And then I spent about 20 years as an expert witness in lawsuits. I just finished an arbitration with the city over here on the San Pedro train station.
Is Forte a partner in the buy board?
Sir?
Are you guys on the buy board? Do you work through the buy board? Or one of the other programs?
There's some misunderstandings with buy board. Buy board has removed some services from their purchasing items. Roofing was one of them. And one of the reasons it was removed is they were getting such dynamically different numbers from multiple contractors. We have run everything for the last 9 years through tips. Tips. You guys will remember, because we ran this courthouse and the building across the street through tips. We had them do a study after the first 5 years. And we just said, listen, take all your steep slope shingles, steep slope metal, and low slope flats. Give me what your average price was for anything that was submitted by TIPS contractors across the state that was not directly tied to this program. And then we did the same thing with our program.
So
I told David, it scares me to death, but we were running 45 to 48% under per foot. And we were using the highest category of roof assemblies in our number. One of the problems is these procurement programs, if not properly managed, become a way to negotiate with cities and counties instead of doing what it's supposed to do, which is favored nation. Meaning, I pay the same price for 10 squares and I pay for 100. We only allow our vetted TML and TAC contractors, they're only allowed to put 10 to 12% markup. And we track it because we have such a high volume that goes through. That's why we are always consistently under adjustment in most cases. And we have a certain level of criteria from the standpoint of best of class products, best of class detailing. Everything we do is according to industry standard. So, yes, we have to, my recommendation is not to go through buy board, because what they're going to do is actually route you through the construction services category because they got out of the roofing program.
Shelley, will there be any insurance help on this one?
His report says that they've been in contact with our property representative. I don't know.
Brett has had at least one, if not two, adjustment teams out here in the past. This roof was definitely exposed to hail. But what you have to understand is in today's world, now if we were going back 10 years ago, we'd be talking differently. But in today's world, all of the insurance industries look at metal as functional or non-functional damage. What that means is, did the hailstorm physically damage that seam where those two come together, or is there a significant number of deflections from the hip within a certain square foot pattern? Because that's going to create financial loss. We've proven those dimples are not going to fail just because hail hit it. We've established that through a mountain of testing over the last 10 years. If it's so aggressive that it would depreciate the value of the building, then yes, it will kick into the function. This does not push into the functional of this building. It's random, it's very isolated, and it's only at the largest hits.
And if it's cosmetic?
Yeah.
Non-functional.
So that sounds like the answer is no. Okay.
Rick, when was the last repairs made on the roof out there, and is it leaking right now?
Somebody put a white coat
That's
on
leaking.
it. It is.
Back in last December, I believe it was, we had pretty bad leaks around the JP office in that area. We had a company come out of the patch that area only, and to my knowledge, it's not leaking right now.
You can tell by the color. If you look at my photos, you'll see some that are really pristine white. Those are the more recent repairs. Now, those, they did not put, from what I can tell right now, any reinforcement in those. I don't anticipate they will have the same life as the ones that were done several years ago. That was done correctly. It's just, it's wearing down.
All these repairs are temporary, so 3 to 5 years. And we've been doing that for several years. Patching where those was 3 to 5 years, we got to do it.
But it's not leaking right now.
To my knowledge, it's not. This last rain we had, we checked, we didn't see.
What's those type repairs costing us, Rick?
This last one was around 1,500.
1,500?
Yeah.
It was pretty isolated. It's not a
Yeah,
lot
there was
of
a
it.
little small area around the front doors or entryway.
Sounds like with the plumbing stack issues probably need to be fixed sooner than later too. If we were to fix some of those issues right now, is that going to affect, would those have to get pulled off to do some of the, to do that? Like the PVC system you're talking
Yeah,
about?
If you went with the flute fill assembly with PVC, those would all get pulled off and they would get flashed and welded into the field membrane.
Okay.
So your water's going to move a lot better. There's also several of the curbs need a little bit more cricketing. Crickets, when the water's coming down the slope, will help push it to either side of the curbs. There's some that are pretty minimal. So what I did is I had them include some cricketing to beef those up. Technically, it should be twice the incoming slope for the cricket. But if I've got 4, I have a minimum of 6-inch slope pushing away to steer that water around those penetrations. It's all about keeping the water moving.
Yeah.
But I think your question was, is that something we can do now as preventative, and how would it affect a future repair or replacement?
If we repaired the stacks right now,
They would have to do
they'd have to be pulled off and done again whenever the new thing went
But
down.
we can do that, and I had them include that in the repair scope, which was removing every one of those flashings, putting a new flashing on, new neoprene flashing in accordance with the Metal Manufacturers Association. But I had them included such that it would be 8 inches tall, have a steel band on it, which I don't know why the industry hasn't gone to this, but we require this on every slope metal roof we deal with. It's gonna have steel band. I am so tired of seeing these things cut and dropped where we don't even have an inch on these pipes.
got through building a house with a metal roof, and I didn't put any stack through the roof, so I didn't have to worry about any of this stuff
The
in
fewer
the
the
future.
penetrations, the better. I mean, you got about 400,000 penetrations just in the screws on that roof, let alone the plumbing vents.
Yeah.
But if they went with a fluid fill, that would have, we require a pre-manufactured split bit, because it has to fit tight and snug to the shaft of that pipe. We want it to look consistent. We don't let them put, I see somewhere look like a sack lunch below the, we don't allow it. It's got to be fully adhered, tight, all the way up, so we can look at it and we know that ain't leaking.
So let me
We
ask
got some
this.
decisions to make.
We go with the repair, $150 or so $1,000 repair. How much life do you think we can get out of that before we have other issues?
I think anybody that would tell you that you would get more than 5 to 10 years is pulling their leg. Texas is harsh. And when you look at the thermal dynamics that go on in Texas, for example, the first time we get ice and snow, that building's gonna leak. I can guarantee you, because you're gonna have spots that ice up where that water accumulates behind those patches. It's gonna ice, and now that water is gonna slowly start to work on those seams to find a way in, because that's gravity. It's pulling. If you ain't moving, it's looking to get in. The nice thing about the PVC, its expansion and contraction rates, even fully adhered, are 3 times the maximum expansion that metal building can grow to. And it has memory, so when a building condenses, it shrinks down to it. And when it expands, it has enough play in that membrane to expand over that space. And you have no exposed fasteners in the fluid.
Rick, as we've had these leaks, what kind of repair have we had to do inside?
Ceiling tile, most of it is damaged ceiling tile.
In other words, do we have expensive repairs when we have the leaks?
And guys, I'm not trying to tell you to spend $500,000. That's not, I'm not trying to make you do that. I just want you to be smart about the money you do spend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a whole lot to think about. If we're spending $1,500 occasionally and we're not seeing a lot of damage inside, that's not a lot of money. If we spend $150,000 in the last 10 years, I could do that 3 times and buy me 30 years before I spend $500,000. I mean, there's a lot of math there to go work.
And that's why I tell counties, I can't tell you what to spend your money on, because I can only tell you what the industry has proven out. Now, you can get a boomer in here next year that totals that roof out, right? I don't know. But at the end of the day, everything I touch with cities, housing authorities, and counties, I gotta be able to sit back and raise my right hand and defend it. And knock on wood, Lord willing, I've never been sued for 40 years in this industry, which is amazing considering the litigation that's involved. I think roofing involves 95% of litigation in certain areas.
Shelley, do you remember whether we actually put a specific number in the budget for that? And if we did, I don't think it's $500K.
No, it's not $500K.
At that time, that's when we approved to get them to come. It didn't come yet. They were waiting, so. Judge, I'm out.
And I had to do that once Tech said that they wouldn't authorize me to come out and do the investigation. I'm required by my guidelines with TAC and TML that I have to go to the member and say, listen, they've denied sending us out on your behalf, so now I have to either charge you or I can't get involved.
Well, say that again, please.
When you have a loss and TAC sends an adjuster out here, as soon as that adjustment or statement of loss is published and sent to you, TAC also sends that to us and says, hey, if you'd like, we will bring Mr. Franklin in under the auspice of the TAC program to be your advocate, to help you with technical issues, help you get it bid, help you get the repairs done, similar to what we did on this building that way. When this came up several months ago, we made the request to Brett at TAC, hey, do you want to go ahead and send me to do a reinspection off of a prior that they had done? They declined. And that's what forced me to have to do something contractually with the county, because unless I get sent out with a claim number, I'm not technically allowed to be out unless I'm hired by the county or I'm hired by town.
79,000.
Okay. Okay. So are you saying, based on, do we owe you money for the assessment? Is that what, I'm missing something right there.
We paid them for the assessment.
I'm sorry?
Yes, we paid them.
Yeah. I
Okay,
was
so we don't owe
explaining-
you any money.
I was just explaining why they had to get a PO for us to come out and do this work.
Okay, all right. Okay, because TAC denied it.
Declined.
It's actually not an insurance claim.
Right, that's what I'm wondering. We've said there's no insurance there. so-
Yeah, we've requested his
Yeah,
expertise.
yeah, okay.
But normally, like in the past, the last loss you guys had, you don't see a bill from them. We're here free of charge to the county.
But that's a done deal now. Everything we do is on us at this point. Yeah.
So also, I know that you provide, you can vet the contractors for us, you can provide spec sheets. What else can you provide for us?
We can design, specify, detail, vet it through the TAC and TML group that we've got established that are vetted. And we can handle all of that, including pre-con, weekly site inspections, a final closeout, because the other thing is, we don't allow contractors to invoice a dime until 100% of the work is done. Warranties are issued. We walk up with the member, in this case the county, we walk the staging site, we make sure it's clean, we make sure we don't have any busted sidewalks, we make sure everything is done before we submit what's called final inspection closing documents, which go to the county. That's your warranties, your lien releases, everything, manufacturer warranty, contractor warranty, lien release, all that stuff gets bundled up into a package that we submit to the county and close it out. That will be the first and only check you write on a building that goes through us, whether it's TAC or we're working for you directly. Now, I have a lot of contractors that go up and say, you can't do that. And my response is, well, as long as I got people who keep showing up and issuing bids, I got some down. You just don't like it.
Guys, we're gonna make a decision today. You've given us a lot of information, a lot of numbers. And I didn't see it in today's presentation. Those numbers are not here today, is that correct?
No, sir.
I'm not
I
missing
just
something.
got them this morning.
Okay.
But I can send them over to Rick.
Yeah, so we can look at it,
Yes.
so we can compare the three.
Absolutely.
Sounds like we're a long ways off on what we budgeted versus what it would cost to do option 2, the fluting. Yeah.
One other question for services, you said vetting and supervising the job, how do you charge their percentage or how do you?
Well, for example, on that flute fill, the flute fill option, and I'll include this when I send it over to Ricky. It's not that much because we're here. We're based out of Salina. I think our fees at $575, our fees would have been covered on that. I'll get the specifics to you so you got exactly what it is for us to basically walk this thing from start to finish, just like we do on the tax markets.
Okay.
Because I do think, in all seriousness, having us out there weekly changes the dynamics, along with not paying a dime till the end, change the total gain for these contractors. One is, now we're going out there once or twice a week to coach the contractor up and catch things before it gets buried or is an issue. So we get that done, we document the stage it's at. And by having that payment performance bond and holding that money, I don't have to stand out there, and the county doesn't have to stand out there and argue the contract, because the county, this is what it says in the specs. You do what it says in the specs. If you don't want to, that's fine. I'm gonna call your bonding company, I'm gonna pull a bond, and I'm gonna have a new roofer around here tomorrow. So we don't have to argue, which is one of the reasons we added that payment performance bond to every contract that TAC and TNO does under losses. Now, they add a fee to cover the tips fee and the payment performance bond. I mean, our whole mission is to get it done right, but also protect our members, so his hands are on the steering wheel all the way through to the end. In a lot of cases, we'll get a rain or two before you even have to write a check, so we'll know if she's working.
I think if I read you right, you like put this off and study a little while maybe.
No, I'm just, that's up to the
That's
board.
what, that's the way I feel too. We need to have a facilities meeting about some other things too, so we just get together.
Yeah, I kind of got the opinion that today was more about understanding options,
Right.
addressing any questions you guys have with regards to my report. And I will get those numbers published over to Ricky. We do them on a spreadsheet, so it's real clean. And then you'll have that, and then when you guys make a decision, just let us know, and we'll go execute whatever the direction is.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Rick, you have all of the information you need and how to get in touch with.
Sure. I'll forward that as soon as you send it.
Okay. Item number 10 was a presentation. Item number 11 is to deliberate and consider possible action regarding a contract between the District Attorney's Office and Axon Enterprises for their Axon Justice Package that will provide discovery management that is CJIS compliant. Go for it.
Good morning. Today we'd like to present to you, Eric would like to present to you some information concerning Axon Enterprises. It is a discovery management tool program that will allow us to legally manage the discovery that we receive from the law enforcement agencies when they file cases with us. Currently,
Just go ahead and identify yourself, if you don't
sorry.
mind, just,
John Warren, District Attorney.
Eric Erlinson, First Assistant District Attorney.
both District Attorney's Office.
Yes.
Just for our records.
Yes, sir. And currently, the system that we use is not CJIS compliant, or is soon to be not CJIS compliant. CJIS is the Criminal Justice Information System, and that is in that system we have to follow certain rules. We currently have a subscription with Box, and it is not going to be compliant. And so we need to enter into a contract with a company that will provide a system that is compliant. Eric has looked at a number of systems, including Box, and has found Axon Enterprises. We watched, Eric has spoken to the representatives from there, and we have been in contact with them, and I have seen a presentation from them. So I would like to turn this over to Eric, and he can explain why we need it, what we need, and going forward what it will do for our office, and that we have to comply with the Criminal Justice Information System. We have no choice. And I believe Eric has found the best program for the money and for the value.
All right, so first of all, to kind of understand how we ended up with Box, during COVID, we were pressed, as many agencies were across the state and across the world, really, to find a way to do things where we weren't going to be interacting face-to-face with people, and we found a solution with Box at the time. And really, Box is similar to OneDrive that we use. It's just a cloud system that holds information for you, that has no extensive features really, apart from being a cloud system that has a file structure in it, folders the same way you open them up on your computer. So it's not really made for law enforcement. We just adapted it to our needs. And what we do now is we have each case essentially has a folder. And through Box, we put all of our discovery in that folder, all of the evidence we get from law enforcement, videos, reports, cell phone extractions, things small or large, we put it into Box. One of the things with Box that we have to do when we share it with defense attorneys, because we're required by law to share all of that evidence with defense attorneys, we have to share it through Box, and really the only way to do that is to make them their own folder. So even in Box, we have this same discovery in 2 places. So that's how we've racked up about 9 terabytes of data within the last 4 years. And that 9 terabytes of data is really not a great way to efficiently share data, because really that's because we're duplicating data. It's on there 2 times in most cases. So anyway, that was the solution we had at the time. We negotiated a contract with Box, and it was CJIS compliant in 2021 when we entered into it. I got an email, and our IT was copied on the email. Daryl and I have spoken about it several times. I got an email at the beginning of September 3rd, saying your Box subscription is no longer going to be CJIS compliant. And we started working with them, and I thought it was going to be kind of an easy fix. Okay, what do you all need? What extra? What do we have to sign up for? What type of money are we looking at? And right now our subscription is $5,040 a year, which was something that we agreed during COVID to pay out of our forfeiture fund, and that was something that we intended to move over to the general fund eventually, but at the time it was in the middle of a budget season. It was easier for us to just pay it out of our forfeiture. So we've been doing that for the last 4 years with that $5,040. So once we got the new quote from Box for what it was going to take to make it CJIS compliant, their quote was $24,123 a year. So I mean, they gave us basically a 500% increase overnight for something that we needed to be able to continue to use their system. So we started looking at other things, really even before we got the quote from Box. We landed on Axon, and we recently got the quote back from Axon. Theirs is going to be $13,000 a year, and really it does way more than Box does. It's CJIS compliant for that $13,000. It allows law enforcement to upload all of their evidence through a portal. Right now we kind of do a patchwork of different things to get the evidence. Sometimes they can download it directly to Box. What we've discovered recently with the sheriff's office is they're not really able to upload it through Box. They're sending a link to our investigator, and our investigator is downloading all of that data onto his computer, which is causing problems, because when we're talking about hundreds of gigabytes of data, he's actually having to go through flash drives or hard drives and put the data on the flash drives, and then after that he has to upload it to Box. So really we're putting it in 3 different places before we can get it in Box where it needs to be. Axon allows law enforcement to upload it directly to Axon, where it will be preserved, where we can send it out and where it's going to be secure at that point. Another thing that Axon does is it's not just a folder structure. It has features that are specific for law enforcement. It has audit trails so that we can go into court when we're required to show what evidence we had and what evidence we shared with defense attorneys. We can actually pull up a report and say, this is exactly what we had, this is when we shared it with them, this is when they accessed it. So it allows more of an audit trail instead of, like I said, just being a folder structure. Another thing that it has is internal media players. Right now, if we want to watch something that's in Box, we have to download that folder to our computer. It all does it through the cloud, but we have to click on the media folder, the video, whatever it is, and then we have to wait for it to download. So what will happen oftentimes is we click on the file and it doesn't upload right away. So you have to go and do something else for a while, and then in about 15 or 20 minutes after it's finished downloading, you'll hear your computer playing audio and you'll realize that it's downloaded, and then you have to go and watch it. So it's not very efficient. So the media player that's within Axon It's all cloud-based, and basically you just, same way you'd watch YouTube, it streams it at that moment. You click it, it starts streaming it right away, so you don't have to wait for it to download. Another feature that we already we pay for with a separate service is transcribing videos. And right now, I think we paid $500, and it's $1 a minute for anything that we can transcribe. And really, any video that we present in court, we're not required to by the law or anything, but to be able to efficiently present that video, we have to have it transcribed, because sometimes the audio is difficult for a jury to hear, so we give them a transcript of whatever is playing on the video so they can actually understand what's being said. Right now, we pay for a different service that's about $1 a minute to do that, and what we would do, or what Axon does, is as soon as any video is uploaded, it automatically transcribes it for you, so that would eliminate that cost. And I think it would ultimately make us a lot more efficient, because you can search by keyword at that point. You can just, if there's a point in a roadside stop that you know happened and you want to go back and look at it, you can just type in the keyword and it'll queue up the exact point on the video that it happened. And we can actually take a clip from that video and send it to a defense attorney if they have some questions about it, so we can efficiently go through the evidence, where right now we're really not able to go through it efficiently. So to break down the cost a little bit, the Axon has a 4% increase every year based on inflation. So the starting number would be $12,296.41. Now the thing about this too is that because we're in the middle of a budget cycle, and Axon understands that, and they're really working with a lot of counties right now in Texas that are going through a lot of the same things we are, they will really defer that payment until our next budget cycle. So we would be not even starting any payment to them until October 2025. And at that point, they have a clause in their contract that says if for some reason we weren't able to secure funding, then we get all of our data back, and obviously we don't move forward with them, but we would still be able to use it for this time period, and if for some reason funding wasn't secured, we would just lose the product, basically. They've offered us a 10-year and a 5-year plan. The 10-year plan, with that 4% increase, it'd be $147,000, give or take, and for 5 years, it's $69,344. And then we just pay yearly for that. Now, if we compare that to Box, assuming the same 4% increase, if we chose to go with Axon, we would save $141,000. And another thing that I've spoken to Daryl about is using OneDrive for this, because I know the whole county uses OneDrive. With the amount of data that we have on Box, and really, I don't think OneDrive would be efficient, because I'm not sure we can share the files the way we need to or do any of that. But even with OneDrive, it would be starting at about $20,000 a year just to be able to have all of our data that we have on OneDrive for the increased storage that we would need. And that's not even including whatever CJIS compliant measures we'd have to take with OneDrive. So I think what we'd be asking you guys to do, and I'll certainly answer any questions, but what we'd be asking you guys to do is have a motion basically to allow us to enter into this contract with Box, or with Axon, I'm sorry, and we would be, their implementation date is, I think it's in their contract, but they were looking at February 1st to be able to come here, and they'll actually install it and make sure everything's good to go. We're responsible, or they will transfer all of our data from Box to Axon, but they have about a year long, or I think he said a 6-month to a year wait before they can come and do that. So they have different avenues that we can do that within our office, and I think that's something that when he explained it to us, I think we would be able to transfer that data so it wouldn't be any extra cost there. But we're asking you all to allow us to enter into this contract with Box, and then of course I don't think we can have a motion for this, but with the assurance that next October, next budget cycle, we would be able to get this $13,000 payment on our subscription line item in the general budget, so that we can continue to pay this, because really the numbers they don't allow us to continue to do this out of our forfeiture fund. It would be depleted. It's not something, if it's a continued cost that we could, or I don't believe something that we should be paying out of our forfeiture fund if it's a recurring cost. You have a question?
Are they on any purchasing co-op?
I believe so. He asked me about that when I asked you about the tax information. He asked me if y'all needed information, and at that point,
Because this will have to be bid if they're not.
okay, I think they are. Because he did say those words. I can get that to you because he asked me if we need that information.
I think I heard him say on the video too. They work with government agencies all the time, so they're super familiar with all of them.
Yeah, he did mention that to me, so I think that I can get that information. Yes, ma'am.
And they have a non-appropriations clause in their terms and
Yes.
conditions, or
Yes.
They did have that.
that's not included in 44 pages.
There would need a minimum be a non-appropriations clause.
In their.
There was one in there. He mentioned that, and I think it's in the contract that was in the packet. But
It's in
is
their
it not?
terms and conditions.
It's in
not-
their term. Okay. But he did mention that it's included.
It's just sad that we're in the first month of the current budget. It's nice that they're willing to defer.
Yeah, and that's something that we did know about this, I guess, at the beginning of September. We didn't know the entire implications of it at the time because we had been happy with Box and we'd been happy paying that, and I don't think any of us expected that there was going to be a $25,000 or a $20,000 increase overnight. So that's kind of why we realized that we were going to have to do something different. And really, I hate to say this for Axon, but it might have worked out better for the county waiting because if they're going to defer it for a year, if we would have entered into this in the last budget contract, we would be $13,000 less. So,
Yeah, and it still comes back to how do we fund the 13,000 too. I mean, you just
Yes,
started
sir.
talking about $500,000 in roof repairs. It's
well, then
unanticipated.
13,000 should be easy if that's what y'all are worried about.
Well, if it was just the 13,000,
They tacked that onto the bottom.
I'm sorry.
They tacked that 13 onto the bottom. It's a 128-month contract, it's 120.
or it's
Oh,
a
so
5-year in some
So
month.
they just deferred it, I see.
They're not giving it to us.
No, it's a-
Well, I thought it was October through October 34.
It's February 25 to October 30, or September 34, or whatever.
But it's still just a deferment, right?
Yeah,
Anyway,
I
you
mean,
look
they
at it, they're
tacked it
just
onto
deferring
the
it. They're not
bottom.
giving us a
Yeah,
year
it's 128.
for free.
10 years
Instead of
would be
120 months. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I just hate to sign up for something I certainly hate to sign up for something for 10 years, knowing how software changes.
Well, and there's a 5-year option, and I think with the 5-year option, we do end up paying a little bit more, but it's not.
Did you run that number?
I did. It's so 69. Well, I didn't run it for the 5-year option. It would be
14 something for a 10-year option, 14.7, right?
That
was pretty simple.
147,000, and then for the 5-year option, it's 69,344.
So what did you say the increase was?
4% every year, and they based that on that was their inflation cost that they added.
That was my concern with them, is that that's the only concern, is that they just,
Just a blanket.
they just go up every year.
Well, and I think my fear would be that this is something that we do have to do.
Yes.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it does include updates, and that's one of the things that Axon Justice really benefits from, because Axon Enterprises, if you guys are familiar, I mean, I know law enforcement's used it around here. DPS is actually in the works of adopting it statewide for their body camera systems and everything. So really, Axon Justice, which is the program we're getting, benefits from the mass amount of law enforcement agencies that are already using this. So every time that they have an update, whatever that is, when they can apply it to Axon Justice, it's included within that price. So we're not going to have to pay extra for an update and upgrade if there's some new body camera system that they can use the new features of that system in Axon Justice. Axon Justice basically benefits from all of the innovation that happens within the law enforcement industry. So that was, and we don't know what that could be, but I mean, certainly an example would be transcribing videos. That's something that started out in the law enforcement system, but Axon Justice is benefiting from that.
It sounds like a good program. The math, I'm showing it 10 years to be 14.7. That's pretty simple. 5 years, 69.3, I think what y'all say.
Yes.
That's 13.8, so it's cheaper to buy 5 years than it is 10. If I'm doing the math right.
Right. Well, and I think the fear with that would be if we wanted to continue and we had to buy a 6th year, I would anticipate their cost would be more than the 4% to enter into a contract 6 years from now. But I know that's something you guys can consider, and I'm not. But that was my understanding of is the 10-year would lock in a price that could be lower 10 years from now or higher 10 years from now if we were to enter it 10 years from now.
Their terms and conditions say that it automatically renews for a 5-year period when it comes to the, yeah.
If we pay for the 5-year,
Well, you.
I mean, if we
just
enter the
continue
5-year
the
contract.
Payment schedule,
so it would just continue at the 4% increase.
but, I mean, that's
Yeah.
the way it reads.
I mean, I don't, you know,
have to read it.
I'm certainly not, we need it now. 5 years from now, I anticipate that we're going to need a program just like this, if not this one. So
My concern is locking ourselves into a long-term contract that we know is going to increase exponentially year to year to year. I'm almost tempted to say the 5-year contract would be sufficient. And that would get your needs. You need it right now.
yes, sir.
And that would get you what you need, but at the same time, that would give you 5 years to, who knows, maybe something better will come along during that 5 years or something like that. And
Maybe some new funding sources show
that's what
up.
I'm saying.
They, you know,
We wouldn't be locked into that longer contract, but am I flawed in my thinking there? Or?
No, I understand that, and I think out of the alternatives that we've looked at, this is one of the best, or right on par with the best of any that I've looked at. Now, there are other options for this, but most of them are more of a countywide solution. It would be something like Odyssey that has their own discovery portal, and that's really more than, I mean, we're talking exponentially more per year than this would be. So I think if it's one office that's going to be doing it, this is the best program that I've come across, at least.
but
Well-
you guys are going to share this with the sheriff's office, so sounds like.
Any
and probably-
agency that we work with, or actually they can put up to 4 agencies on it where they actually have their own login, they can access it and use the upload portal, create cases in the same way that we can view the cases, they can create them. Now, it's not a solution for them as far as records management, it's really only managing their evidence so that we can see it, so it's not a standalone system for them. But we anticipated on putting the Sheriff's Office, Gainesville Police Department, and DPS on it, and then probably Valley View or Lindsay or Munster or somebody else. But then any other agency that needs to use it or needs to share evidence with us, they can still upload evidence. They just won't have all the features of the portal that they can log into. So they can still, we'll be able to get, you know, if somebody in Nebraska needs to get us evidence, we can send them a link saying, here's how you send it, and they can click on it and upload it the same way that anybody else would.
Like a temporary use or one
Yes, sir.
time or two, whatever. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And this has nothing to do with the decision, but I'm not seeing where they're coming back and popping us for the deferral.
It's the 8-month add-on at the end of the 10.
It's broken out several ways there.
Okay. I on the billings, on the payment summary, I didn't see it.
The program length's 128 months.
Okay,
That's on the 10-year.
That's
That's
on the
okay.
10-year.
And that
So
would have
they're-
snuck right
It's broken
past
out
me.
by
Did 120.
120, and then the next one's 8 months.
Okay, I got you now. I was just looking at the billing summary and it showed October 25, October 26, and then all the way down to 34, and that would have been them skipping a year, but now I see what you're saying.
of course, there's been some requests.
Nothing's free.
For
Tim
some-
Stoffel.
For some phone upgrades and some travel expense, somewhere at some point in time, we're gonna have to limit some spending.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
this needs to be a priority over some other things.
Who knows, maybe in the next 5 years, something else will come along that's.
I think if there was a countywide solution where we could all be on the same program and do it, that would be beneficial.
Yeah.
But short of that.
I sat in on the demo with this government sales rep and everything, and one thing I noticed over and I don't know what they do on a daily basis, it's over my pay grade, but the way that the box works now, you can't see when a lawyer's office logs in to get the discovery file. You know, they can say that they didn't when they really did, or vice versa, and it almost seems like files can be deleted or added, and other things that are.
Yeah,
I guess that's why it's fallen out of this compliance.
Right, that might be why it's not compliant, but one of the things with Box is once we create the folders for the defense attorneys, they can, it's really their folder, they have access to it, and we allow them to be able to download that stuff from the folder so they can actually print it off if they need to for their files. But the flip side of that is that if we give them the rights to edit that information, they can edit that information. And then there's an audit trail, or there's no audit trail. So, if we say a defense attorney got this information and they say they didn't, it's really going to be us in the court saying, well, we did share it with you, and him saying, well, no, you didn't, it's not here. So, and with this, it would be a clean.
You get a receipt.
We have a
basically
receipt.
Yeah, and this is not me, it's a selling point to me. This is like, hey, there's a large gap in what they're using right now, and I understand why it's falling out of compliance and why.
Sure.
Like I said, I'm concerned about long-term contracts where we're gonna find the 13,000 in future years. I'm gonna make the motion that we go ahead and approve entering into a 5-year contract.
Excellent, and I'll second that. Motion was made by Commissioner Hollowell, second by myself, to enter into the 5-year contract with Axon, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions or any remarks?
I guess what we're doing is authorizing your signature.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
All right.
his signature, please.
The judge signs all contracts, does he not?
Do what?
Does the judge sign all contracts?
Oh, yeah, that's
Our
your
signature.
Our signature.
Yeah, we
He's
won't,
signing representing you guys, yeah.
we won't quibble over that. We'll
Yeah,
we'll both sign it, yeah.
What? Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none.
Oh, it does need that non-appropriation clause.
It doesn't return.
Okay.
Is that, now that we've done that, is that, please y'all, is that okay with y'all, what we did?
Yes, we'll have to, we can work with them to enter into the contract as we need, and I think that we should have time to do it. Their implementation date wasn't gonna be until February, but I'll let their rep know, and we can get the ball moving on that.
One other question, Eric. Are we gonna owe Box some money?
So that's another thing, and I spoke to the box rep last week and told them, basically, we're not gonna pay $24,000 for your product, and he understood, and I talked with him a little bit. He was gonna get with Daryl, because Daryl has been he's worked with them on the IT side of it. I think we might end up having to get with them until February, obviously, because our contract with Box expires, or our payment is due actually at the end of this month for Box. So we'll have to work with them, and if there's a gap in CJIS compliant, we might just have to pull it offline and go back to, doing things more, making copies in our office for people and things. But we'll be able to manage that one way or the other. But as far as this, we might end up, like I said, if we negotiate something with Box that we can have it until February and keep our CJIS compliance, then.
I was concerned about for the budget. Are we gonna owe them some money, or are we gonna be paying them for some future months or something? When's
Right.
that contract end, I guess what I'm asking?
So that contract ends at the end of this month.
The
and
end of
right
this
now,
month?
Yes, and right now, our payment that they're asking for the end of this month is $5,000 basically if we want to keep it non-CJIS compliant, or $24,000 if we want it to be CJIS compliant, and that's where we'll have to go back to them. And I think we're to the point now where if we have to pull all of that data off and put it on a hard drive and hold it until we get Axon ready to go, then that might be what we have to do there, so.
See, there's another thing about that long-term contract too, that's going to encumber courts beyond, I doubt that any of us are gonna be, who knows, we might still be here 10 years from now, I don't know, but
I hope, man.
Sheriff,
did you?
I'm not talking about
You
being
need to
here,
talk to
I'm
this
talking about
subject.
being here.
Okay, I just saw you stand up. I didn't know if you needed something or.
So and that way we won't encumber future courts
Yes, sir.
that might go, why in the world did you do that? Because we got a better deal here. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Good presentation.
Judge, you never said the vote.
Yeah,
You called it, but
Called it, but you never
called it and we all voted for it. The vote will be 4 to nothing.
Just getting it on record.
Do what?
Just getting it on record.
where's Matt?
All right. Good for you. That was a test. All right. Now then, we come to item number 12, which is executive session in compliance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Government Code, Vernon's Texas Codes, annotated consultation with county attorney regarding proposed actions and advice to the court, real property issues, contracts, any personnel matters. So if I could ask that we clear the court. Then, okay, it is now 12:50 and we will reconvene back in regular court. Item number 13 is to deliberate and consider possible action regarding consultation with the attorney regarding proposed actions and advice to the court, real property contract being negotiated, or any personnel matters. And there's no action from executive session. Item number 14.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Snuggs makes the motion. Second, Commissioner Hollowell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This time it is 5-0.
What time?
Thanks, guys.
Time.
We are through.